A young billionaire's daughter who refused to leave her wheelchair until one quiet evening, her maid took her somewhere no one expected. Welcome to Stories Hub. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch stories. Let us know in the comments section where you are watching from and what time you are currently watching this video. The mansion on the outskirts of Dallas, Texas, looked like something out of a magazine. Glass walls, infinity pool, and a driveway lined with expensive cars. But inside those walls was a tension no amount of money could fix. 12-year-old Emily Hartford hadn't stood up or taken a step in over a year. Doctors said there was nothing physically wrong with her legs. She could walk, she just didn't. Her father, Richard Hartford, one of the wealthiest oil tycoons in Texas, had spent millions flying in the best doctors, therapists, and even spiritual counselors, but nothing worked. Emily stayed in her wheelchair, staring blankly, rarely speaking to anyone, and the new maid, Rosa Alvarez, had been working in the house for just 2 weeks when she noticed something strange. Every night after everyone went to bed, she'd find Emily in the library, long past midnight, just staring at a single painting on the wall. It was an old painting of a bridge at night, misty, lonely, with a single light post glowing faintly. "Emily," Rosa had whispered the first time she saw her there, but Emily never answered. She would just sit there silently, fingers gripping the armrest of her wheelchair so tightly her knuckles turned white. One evening, Rosa heard shouting in the house. Richard had just fired Emily's latest physical therapist. "She's not even trying!" Richard yelled, slamming his fist on the dining table. "I won't have a daughter who gives up on life." Emily sat there expressionless until Rosa caught her eye for just a second and saw a flash of something. Not sadness, not anger, fear. That night, Rosa made a decision. She waited until everyone was asleep, then gently tapped on Emily's bedroom door. Emily was awake, as usual, staring at the ceiling. "Querida, would you like to get some air?" Rosa asked softly. Emily hesitated, then nodded ever so slightly. Within minutes, Rosa was quietly pushing the wheelchair out of the mansion, careful not to wake the night guards. The cold Texas night hit them as they made their way down the long driveway. For the first time, Emily whispered something. "Where are we going?" she asked. "You'll see," Rosa replied, her voice calm but firm. The city lights faded as they drove in Rosa's old pickup truck. Emily looked out the window, gripping the sides of her wheelchair as if every bump in the road made her more nervous. After 30 minutes, Rosa pulled up to an empty park, not the kind you take kids to play at, but the kind that was quiet, nearly forgotten, with a single cracked walking trail that led to a wooden bridge over a creek. Emily froze when she saw the bridge. Her breathing quickened. "This is the place," Rosa said quietly. "Whatever is keeping you in that chair, it ends here tonight." Emily didn't respond. Her lips trembled, her hands gripping tighter. Before Rosa could say anything else, a sudden noise echoed from the woods nearby, a sharp crack like a branch snapping. Rosa turned her head quickly, scanning the darkness. Emily's eyes widened. Rosa swallowed hard, suddenly aware that they weren't as alone as she thought. "Stay calm," she whispered, glancing around the empty park, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Then they heard it again, this time closer. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments what country or which city you're watching this story from. We'd love to know how far this story travels. The night was dead silent except for the rustling leaves and that eerie snap echoing through the trees. Rosa's hands tightened around the wheelchair handles as she turned slowly toward the sound. "Who's there?" she called out, trying to keep her voice steady. No answer. Emily's breathing was shallow, her wide eyes locked on the shadows beyond the bridge. "Rosa," she whispered, "we need to go back." But Rosa shook her head. "No, Querida. We came here for a reason. Whatever's haunting you, whatever is making you afraid to stand, we face it here." Emily shook her head furiously. "You don't understand." Another snap, this one louder, and now the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunched through the dried leaves. Rosa's heart thudded. She grabbed her phone, flicked on the flashlight, and shined it toward the noise. The beam cut through the dark, landing on a figure standing just beyond the edge of the trees. It was a man. He was tall, dressed in a dark hoodie, his hands shoved into his pockets. He stood perfectly still, just staring at them. Rosa stepped forward, shielding Emily instinctively. "Can we help you?" Rosa asked, raising her voice. The man didn't answer. Emily's nails dug into the sides of the wheelchair. "We have to leave, please." Then, as quickly as he appeared, the man turned and disappeared into the woods without a word. Rosa's chest heaved as she lowered the flashlight. "We're fine," she said softly, almost as if to convince herself. But Emily was shaking, and Rosa knew that whatever had just happened had only made things worse. "Look at me," Rosa said, crouching down in front of the wheelchair. "You have to tell me why you're so afraid. You can walk, Emily. I know you can. So why won't you?" Emily's lips quivered. "Because of this place," she whispered. Rosa frowned. "What about this place?" Emily looked toward the bridge. "This is where it happened." Rosa stayed quiet, letting her talk. "My brother," Emily swallowed hard. "It happened here, that night. I saw it all, and I ran until I couldn't anymore." Rosa felt her stomach drop. She had heard rumours when she first took the job about the Hartford family's son, 16-year-old Nathan, who had tragically drowned last year. But no one ever said how or where. Before Rosa could ask anything else, headlights suddenly swept across the park. A black SUV slowed to a stop near the entrance. Emily froze. "It's my dad." Rosa's heart skipped a beat. How did he even know where they were? Richard Hartford stepped out of the SUV, his suit jacket gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his face tight with fury. "What the hell are you doing here?" he barked, storming towards them. Rosa rose to her feet. "Mr. Hartford, please, she needed fresh air. She needed my—" "You had no right to take her off the property," he roared. Emily flinched at his voice. Richard, she's not sick," Rosa shot back, surprising even herself with her boldness. "Whatever happened here, this is why she won't walk." Richard's face darkened. "Enough. Put her in the car." Emily's breathing grew panicked. "No, I don't want to go back." Richard turned his cold gaze on Rosa. "You work for me. Do as I say." But Rosa didn't move. She looked down at Emily, then back at Richard. "If you want her to walk again, let her stay." The air between them was thick with tension. Richard's jaw clenched, his fists curling at his sides. Then he spun on his heel and stormed back to the SUV. "You have 10 minutes, he growled before slamming the door shut. The engine stayed running, headlights still burning into the night. Rosa knelt again, her voice low and urgent. "Emily, tell me what happened on this bridge. All of it." Emily's eyes glistened with tears. She gripped the armrests of her chair and stared at the wooden planks of the bridge as if they were alive. "It wasn't an accident," she whispered. Rosa's breath caught at Emily's words. "What do you mean it wasn't an accident?" Emily's fingers trembled against the armrest. "Nathan didn't just fall in the water. Someone was here that night." Rosa glanced over her shoulder toward the woods, suddenly hyper-aware of every shadow and sound. "Emily," she said gently, "you have to tell me exactly what happened. All of it." Emily's voice was shaky, but the words spilled out. "We were supposed to meet someone. Nathan told me not to tell Dad. He said it was important, that it would fix everything, but when we got here, there was shouting." Emily's chest heaved as if the memory alone was too heavy to carry. Rosa squeezed her hand. "What were they shouting about?" "I don't know. I hid behind the tree." Emily's eyes darted to the one just at the edge of the bridge. "Nathan was arguing with someone. A man. I couldn't see his face, but then Nathan screamed, and then he was gone. Just like that." Rosa's stomach tightened. The man they saw earlier, could it have been the same one? Before Rosa could ask more, the crunch of boots on gravel made both of them turn. Richard was walking back toward them from the SUV, his face even darker than before. "Time's up," he said sharply. "Mr. Hartford, please," Rosa started, but Richard raised a hand. "Enough, she's coming home." Emily's grip tightened on Rosa's wrist. "No, Dad, please, I don't want to go back, not until I tell you what I saw." Richard's face hardened, his jaw tightening. "Emily." His voice was low, dangerous. "We are not doing this here." "Yes, we are." Emily's voice cracked, and for the first time there was fire in her eyes. She saw something, Rosa pressed. She saw what happened to Nathan. You need to hear her out. Richard's face went pale for a second, just a flicker, then the anger returned. Get her in the car. Rosa stood her ground. If you take her now, she'll never walk again. You can't buy her way out of this. She needs to face it. The night air felt like it could snap in half from the tension. Suddenly, a rustling sound from the woods broke through the silence. This time, it wasn't just one set of footsteps, it sounded like several. Richard turned his head sharply, his hand instinctively going to his belt. Rosa realized he was carrying a firearm. Stay behind me, he ordered. The sound grew louder, leaves crunching, twigs snapping. Rosa quickly wheeled Emily toward the bridge, putting some distance between them and the tree line. Then, out of the darkness, a figure emerged, not the same man from before, but someone younger, his face partially covered by a scarf. He stopped a few feet from Richard and raised his hands slowly. I don't want trouble, he said, his voice low. Richard didn't lower his gun. Who are you? The man's eyes darted toward Emily. You shouldn't be here, not tonight. Emily's heart thudded in her chest. It's him, she whispered to Rosa. He was here that night? Rosa's pulse quickened. Emily, are you sure? Yes, Emily said firmly. That's the voice. Richard's grip on the gun tightened. You have 3 seconds to explain yourself before I call the police. The man stepped back. If you call them, you'll regret it. This family's hands aren't clean. Richard's face darkened. Say that again. The man turned and bolted into the woods. Stay here, Richard barked, sprinting after him, disappearing into the darkness. Rosa's heart hammered as she grabbed the wheelchair handles. We have to go, Emily, now! No, Emily said, shaking her head. I'm not leaving. I need to know. Emily! But then another sound came from the opposite side of the park, a car door slamming shut. Rosa's blood ran cold. They weren't alone. She spun the wheelchair around and froze. Another black SUV had pulled up silently near the park entrance, and 2 men stepped out. Neither of them looked friendly. The 2 men from the SUV walked with purpose, their eyes locked on Rosa and Emily. Their heavy boots crunched against the gravel, echoing in the empty park. Rosa's grip on the wheelchair tightened. She forced her voice to sound steady. Emily, stay calm. One of the men, tall and broad-shouldered, spoke first. Hand over the girl. Rosa stepped in front of the wheelchair. Excuse me? You heard me, the man said flatly. This doesn't concern you. Step aside. Emily's hands clenched the armrest so hard her knuckles turned white. Rosa, don't let them take me. Rosa's heart pounded. She glanced toward the woods, praying Richard would come back, but there was no sign of him. I said, step aside, the man repeated, this time more forcefully. Rosa grabbed the wheelchair handles and started backing toward the bridge. Stay away from us, she warned. The second man smirked. You don't want to make this difficult? Suddenly, headlights from Richard's SUV flashed through the trees. The sound of his engine roared as he sped back into the clearing, dirt and gravel spraying as the car skidded to a stop. He jumped out, gun in hand. Get away from them. The men froze for a second, then the tall one smirked. You can't shoot us, Hartford. You know who we work for. Richard didn't lower the gun. Try me. Rosa's pulse quickened. This wasn't just some random confrontation, whoever these men were. Richard knew them. The shorter man took a step forward, calm and collected. You think keeping the truth buried will protect you? It won't. The girl knows too much already. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Dad, they were here that night, weren't they? Richard's jaw tightened. For the first time he hesitated. His gun wavered just slightly. Emily, get in the car, he said sharply. No, Emily yelled, surprising them all with her sudden strength. Not until you tell me what happened to Nathan. The taller man chuckled darkly. She's braver than you give her credit for. Richard's face hardened, but before he could react, the 2 men suddenly rushed forward. Run! Rosa shouted, spinning the wheelchair and sprinting toward the bridge. The wheels rattled against the wooden planks as they crossed. Behind them, Richard fired a warning shot into the air. The crack of the gun echoed across the park. One of the men shouted, Get them! Rosa's legs burned as she pushed the chair faster, adrenaline surging through her veins. Emily held onto the armrests for dear life, her breathing quick and shallow. When they reached the other side of the bridge, Rosa veered off the path into the grass, aiming for the thick trees. "Rosa, they'll catch us!" Emily cried. "Not if we keep moving," Rosa panted. They pushed deeper into the dark woods, branches scraping Rosa's arms, leaves crunching loudly beneath them. Behind them they could hear the men shouting and crashing through the brush, getting closer. Then just ahead, Rosa spotted an old maintenance shed, half hidden by vines. She wheeled Emily inside and quickly shut the door, pressing her back against it, trying to silence her breathing. The shed was musty and dark, filled with old tools and rusted equipment. Rosa crouched beside the wheelchair and whispered, "Stay quiet." Outside, footsteps approached. "They went this way!" one of the men yelled. The sound of boots grew louder. They were circling the shed. Rosa held her breath. Then silence. The minutes stretched. Emily's eyes darted to Rosa, terrified, as if asking whether they were still out there. Suddenly, the doorknob rattled violently. Rosa grabbed the nearest object she could find, a rusty crowbar, and held it tight. "Rosa," Emily whispered, panic in her voice. The door creaked as someone began to force it open. Just then, Richard's voice rang out from somewhere nearby. "Leave them alone!" The men cursed under their breath. Then came the sound of a scuffle grunts, the crunch of fists, something heavy hitting the ground. Emily covered her ears as the noise outside turned violent. Rosa peeked through a crack in the shed wall, just in time to see Richard slam one of the men against the side of the SUV. The second man grabbed Richard from behind, and the two struggled viciously. Rosa's pulse thundered in her ears. She couldn't just sit there. She turned back to Emily. "If we're going to end this, you have to be brave." Emily swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" "You have to tell him everything, right now." Emily's lips trembled. "I'm scared." "So am I," Rosa whispered, tightening her grip on the crowbar. "But fear doesn't win tonight." Rosa took a deep breath, flung open the shed door, and wheeled Emily out into the open. The night air was heavy, full of shouting and the sound of fists striking flesh. Richard was on the ground, grappling with the shorter man, while the taller one was trying to pull him off. "Stop!" Rosa yelled, holding the crowbar high. Everyone froze for a split second. "Emily has something to say," Rosa shouted, "and you're all going to listen." Emily's chest heaved. Her knuckles were white from gripping the chair. "I saw what happened that night," she cried. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Richard turned his head toward her, his face pale, sweat and dirt smeared across it. "I saw you fight with Nathan," Emily said, tears streaming down her face now. "I saw those men there too. You were yelling and then Nathan fell. You didn't even jump in to save him. You just stood there." Richard's face twisted with pain. "Emily, no!" "It's true," Emily sobbed. "You told everyone it was an accident, but I saw everything, and I ran until I couldn't walk anymore. That's why I never got out of this chair." Her words hung in the air, heavy and raw. The two men backed off slightly, their expressions unreadable. Richard slowly stood, chest heaving, his gun hanging limply at his side. "You think I wanted this?" he shouted, his voice breaking. "I tried to save him, Emily, I did. But by the time I got to the water—" His voice cracked. "He was gone." "Then why lie?" Rosa demanded. Richard's shoulders sagged. "Because Nathan was meeting these men that night. He was trying to blackmail them. If the truth got out, it would have destroyed this family." The taller man stepped forward, his voice low. "He's not wrong. The kid knew too much." "You killed him!" Emily screamed. "No," the man said, shaking his head. "He slipped. We were just supposed to scare him." Emily's lip trembled. She turned to her father. "And you just let them walk away?" Richard closed his eyes as if the weight of the last year had finally crushed him. "I was trying to protect you," he said quietly. "I didn't need your protection." Emily's voice rang out, stronger now. She pushed against the armrests of her wheelchair, her arms trembling. "I needed the truth." Then, for the first time in a year, she stood. Her legs wobbled beneath her, but she didn't fall. She stood tall, her eyes burning with anger and pain. The sight stopped everyone cold. Even the two men stared in stunned silence. "Emily," Richard whispered, taking a step toward her. "No more lies, Dad," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "Nathan deserves better than this. We go to the police, all of us." For a long moment no one moved. Then Richard dropped the gun, letting it clatter to the ground. "You're right," he said, his voice hollow. "It ends tonight." The taller man cursed under his breath, but didn't argue. He knew the fight was over. Within an hour, the police had arrived. The two men were taken into custody, and Richard gave his statement on the spot. Emily stood beside Rosa the entire time, refusing to sit back down in the wheelchair. When the flashing red and blue lights finally disappeared into the night, Emily turned to Rosa, tears still streaming down her face. But now there was something else there too. Relief. She took Rosa's hand and whispered, "Thank you. You saved me." Rosa smiled softly. "No," queried her. "You saved yourself." Richard walked over, his face tired and broken. "Emily, I'm sorry." Emily nodded once, her voice steady. "So am I." For the first time since that night, the Hartford mansion no longer felt like a prison. It felt like the start of something new. Emily never used the wheelchair again. The end. Please like and subscribe for more rich stories like this. Comment below. Let us know in the comment section where you are watching from and what time you are currently watching this video. Also, if you really love this video and want to support the channel directly, you can hit that super thanks button below.